Welcome back to another quick tip. This is Mike Carlo from Power BI Tips. With me, I've got some more friends with me here. I would love to introduce to you Chris Finlan and Santosh from the Microsoft product teams. Welcome, gentlemen. Thank you for jumping on this quick tip today. Today, we're going over what the heck is Autoscale billing. We are friends.
Okay.
Maybe not after this video. I don't know yet. We'll see.
You're overstating it.
Okay. Welcome to my acquaintances at Microsoft, Chris Finlan and Santosh. I'll redo the intro. Don't we'll edit that in post. No problem.
Sure.
Excellent. Awesome. Welcome, everyone. Thank you for jumping in. Santosh, give us a quick overview. You've got some slides here. Let's pull up some slides. Welcome to the show. Let's go through what you're talking about here. What's this new feature from FabCon?
Thanks for having us, Mike. Happy Friday. And so super excited. I'm Santosh. I'm part of the Fabric data engineering team. I have Chris here. Chris leads all of data engineering for Spark workloads in Fabric. So just to set some context before we dive right in. Fabric, as you all know, is the unified SaaS analytics platform. It has different workloads and engines, Data Factory, analytics, databases, RTI, and Power BI. Today, we'll be focusing primarily on Spark workloads, which powers the data engineering and data science workloads within the analytics suite. So just go with the agenda before we dive into the feature. We would want to spend most of the time discussing about the new serverless billing option. That's the Autoscale billing for Spark. This was announced at FabCon Vegas 2 weeks ago. Then once we dive deep into the feature, we would want to we can also watch a demo, and then we want to also look at how the overall admin controls could be leveraged by enterprise users, the different controls that are there currently, and different cost optimization strategies that enterprise users could use for scaling their workloads from a sandbox environment to production level. And then we can take some questions. And to be honest, I would it'd be better if we have questions as we go over the feature. But we can also have time for later in the section. So let's dive right in. Autoscale billing for Fabric Spark. So just to set some context, this is for users who are familiar with Synapse or any other Spark offering on Azure.
Do you have any names of those other Spark offerings on Azure?
Could be Databricks or.
I'm like, there's one.
Yeah.
Azure Databricks.
Or HDI.
and Synapse too, right? So there's a Spark offering there from Synapse as well.
This is Synapse. We brought back Synapse billing, and
Yes.
If you're familiar with Databricks, this is the question we asked in our sessions: how many people here use Databricks? The billing works like that. They're like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
So that was the thing.
It's exactly the same. So in this case, the users, once they turn this on, they offload all of their data engineering workloads to a complete pay-as-you-go mode. All the one-lake operations that are tied to the Spark jobs are also offloaded from the base capacity. Now, what this gives them is the flexibility to scale their Spark workloads beyond and set them to granular limits, and also to larger limits based on their bursty Spark jobs that they would want to process, and they could have their base capacity, which is going to be shared across all of the other Fabric workloads, like say data warehouse, Power BI. They could size them accordingly based on the regular usage that they see. They don't have to worry about packing the Spark jobs, which could lead to resource contention. And this is something that we have heard a lot of feedback around from the community, where these workloads compete with each other, and Spark being a big data processing workload, it takes up more compute, resulting in overall throttling for other jobs or other workloads.
Love it. Awesome.
So,
go ahead, Chris. Go ahead.
Well, I was gonna give Santosh gave a very nice, clean PC answer around what this is. I think for me, and to just talk about, why was this introduced? All the capacity model that's in Power BI for quite some time. Why would you go and add? This is basically the first offering outside of a user-based license or the capacity model that was introduced. And so, just to talk about that journey. So I joined the team in late 2021, coming from a Power BI background, and what I immediately learned was Spark works very, very differently from a lot of other things in Power BI or in and it is a true serverless offering that is simply the compute. It's not the storage. And when you're trying to translate it to the capacity model, which again could make sense if you're running Spark jobs very consistently throughout the entire day, but what we found was they're running Spark jobs with thousands of cores for a couple hours.
Yeah, well, I don't run thousands of cores. I run a job and I batch job them and it's done. Like I don't need. I'm overpaying for if I want a big cluster, I would need to buy a larger FSKU just for that one time I run the job. And then I have to do all kinds of other weird automation, I'm going to turn my FSKU up large for an hour, run the big job, and then ramp the SKU back down when I'm complete because my normal workloads aren't as large. Not ideal. And I think that's kind of what you're addressing there.
Yeah, exactly. And that was kind of the point. It was look, there's a lot of interest in leveraging Spark and Fabric, especially since, it was one of the workloads as it came over from Synapse, the price drop.
Yeah.
If you look at the per core price. And so, but that was a big thing is people just trying to wrap their head around the capacity model. And just like Justina said, we'll have you running thousands of cores soon, Mike. I also like to point out, by the way, that she said, woohoo, go Santosh. No mention of me in chat or any sort of encouragement per se.
We know who really gets the work done at Microsoft here, I guess, apparently. So that's so we see.
Clearly her affinity is showing here. But no, seriously, it was hey, look, we have customers who are interested in this. It's just for a lot of scenarios, the capacity model was a tough fit for what they were trying to accomplish with Spark.
Awesome.
And again, this is not meant to replace the capacity model, but it is meant to be an alternative for customers
I like this.
Based on their use case. And so what it'll mean is hey, look, are you just using the capacity for Spark? If you're just using the capacity for Spark, in general, this is probably going to make more sense, again, unless you're running it very consistently 24/7 throughout the day. And it's just a math thing at that point. But if you're running multiple workloads or you're running Power BI or things like that, or again, hey, I have a lot of excess capacity. These Spark jobs that I'm running, they fit perfectly nice on the existing capacity that I have, then that's great. Use the capacity model for that very specifically. So it's an alternative. It's not meant to replace the capacity model. And it's one of those things that you'll quickly, you'll be able to make those choices. It also, when you first get started, it's hey, what size capacity do I need? Here's what you can do.
Start small.
Go start here with this, and then run your Spark jobs. And then see hey, look, does it make sense for me to continue working in this way in a pay-as-you-go fashion? Or does it make sense for me to transition to a capacity and use So I just wanted to provide that additional context here of hey, why did we even need to go do this? Because again, yes, it's been the industry standard, but why not the capacity model for folks?
Awesome. Do you want to run the demo now, or do you have some more slides?
No, actually, let's touch on the name part that you brought up, right? So I know
I'm going to have issue here at this point. So this is Michael going to be picky about what the naming convention here. Autoscale comes with all kinds of intentions here. I will help you here a little bit, Microsoft, with your naming convention. I'm just going to name this one. This is Pay-as-you-go Spark, which is what it really should be called. You're going to probably come up with another fancy name. I get it. But when I looked at this, I had to really what the heck are we talking about? What does Autoscale mean? And I think it's aptly named Pay-as-you-go.
You're right. Again, the name, for Spark, Autoscale is not a new concept, right? Autoscale has been something that's been there in OSS. Executors get added. So the reason we wanted to spend more time on this slide, and this was something also we did during our FabCon session, was customers often get tripped upon this naming. They're okay, wait a minute, Spark jobs already scale out. So is this going to be scaling the capacity? None of that is going to happen. In this case, just the Autoscale for Spark pools or Spark jobs is within the context of a job or a Spark application where users set min and max nodes, and the nodes scale out based on the number of tasks that they're processing, and scale back down. That's just within the context of a single application, right? So that's
Yes.
this is not going to change that behavior anyways. In this case, it's primarily it's a billing concept. All you're going to do is set a max quota limit. It's going to be the
Yep.
absolute peak usage that you would potentially hit, more like users do today for like any of their past resources, like say Synapse or Databricks. They would allocate quotas on their subscription, thinking of, okay, I'm going to need like 10,000 cores or vCPUs for this particular job. In those cases, they just set the max limit and let the jobs run. That's all they would have to do, even in the case of Autoscale billing for Spark. It does not scale up or scale down from the capacity. The users only pay for what they actually use based on the number of cores that the jobs actually use. So I hope that clarifies the questions or the concerns that they had, the users or the community had around what this autoscale behavior is in terms of billing.
Let me just unpack this a little bit, because I want to like what this means to like the user who's potentially using this feature. I think of this as, this is, I may have a Spark job that is bursting. It's got a little bit more usage than normal. The capacity today bursts a little bit, but this allows me to take that entire, Spark compute engine piece and pull that out. And so this also allows me, from an administration standpoint, I could run a smaller FSKU and pull out just the jobs that are the Spark capacities. Now, is that kind of the right thinking here, Santosh? Is I'm thinking about that right? Like I could potentially use a different FSKU and then pull out those workloads. So that way, as they scale up and down, I'm not overburdening myself on the FSKU capacity. I'm thinking in smaller businesses, potentially. That's where I work some of those today already. They're using F2s, but sometimes they'll put 3 or 4 notebooks on something and they're doing some testing and they run out of capacity and stuff stops working. So on those smaller organizations who are just kicking the tires, they're just figuring some things out. Maybe you're building something for a department. A department gets their own FSKU. You can give them a smaller SKU and then tell them, look, the billing still can happen, and you can run these larger Spark clusters outside of the capacity units that you're currently using. Let me just unpack that one more item here. As you do this, how does this work on the billing side of things? Is the Spark capacity billed differently at a different rate than you'd see in Azure, or is it still in CUs that I would see on my bill? Kind of, how does that work?
Excellent question. It's the bill rate is not going to be impacted by this feature. The bill rate
love it.
Is the same.
Awesome.
One thing that I would add to this is I do have some slides on this. The billing is going to be reported against a new meter. It's called Autoscale for Spark Capacity CU. Users would be able to, just like any other PaaS resource, right? They would be able to go to the Azure subscription in the cost analysis tab. They would be able to filter out the specific meter category, and they should be able to see the overall usage of their Autoscale billing for Spark. So that should also give them a breakdown on what's the usage, what's the cost or the compute spent from the Fabric capacity that they have in the subscription, and the Autoscale costs associated.
Love that.
Yeah. So just to add on to that. So during the session we had at FabCon, I gave the example of, pretend you're trying to run 96 Spark cores. It's 48 CUs. What capacity size do you buy to do that? Well, you could do it with an F16, because we do allow a 3x burst rate. But again, depending on how long it is, you could run into throttling, if you're trying to run other workloads, etc. You could do an F32, but also, how long is the job running? Like what happens if it goes longer? What are the other workloads you're doing? You could do an F64, but again, then you're overpaying.
Now. Yeah, exactly my point. This is why this makes so much more sense now to me, because these jobs are dynamically, and you already have the part that makes it so interesting to me is you already have this figured out. Like, you've already solved it in other places. We're just bringing that solution forward now into Fabric, which is so exciting to me. So really great job on that.
Yeah, as you add nodes, with the flat capacity, you're paying for, let's say you start with 8 cores. Your job can go up to 96, but for each step there, you were getting billed at the same flat rate, like whether you were using all the capacity or not.
Yes, exactly.
In this case, you're getting paid you're paying each step up. I'm paying for 8 cores. Now it goes up to 16. I'm paying only for 16. And that upper limit, this is something that's very important for people, again, if they have kind of more of a capacity mindset. You're not paying all the time for what you set the upper limit at. All you're saying there is, hey, look, I can't go past 500 CUs or whatever it is.
Yes, correct.
But if I only use 4, I'm only paying for 4. And this did trip people up. So and again, if you're using a capacity and you're running at a very steady state with Spark, this won't be better for you. And that's something that's important. Like I gave that example, but if it's like, hey, look, I know exactly the number of nodes I'm running, and I'm running this job for 14 hours, and it's going to use this much CU, and that, like, I have the capacity figured out. We wouldn't say, hey, go switch to this just because. Like, if you have RI or other things, like it may make perfect sense to stay on that capacity model. So there will be some stuff that you need to go and play around with, but at a minimum, you can go and say, hey, you can start out with this, try it in your dev environment, which I know some customers have already done, and then they say, okay, this makes sense, but I can actually move this to a capacity model that I already have.
Love it. Awesome. This is great. I love this.
And that brings us to this slide, right? So, like to Chris's point, if you're going to have continuous usage, like then I think the capacity model would be the most efficient one, where you can actually save a lot more. But in, say, for example, your average usage is going to be 200, something that could be like that you could fit within an F64, but your Spark usage or your month-end data processing is going to be is going to have like a 10,000 core requirement. In those cases, you don't have to like go and provision a larger capacity for this. You could put it on Autoscale, set the max CUs to like say 10,000 in this case, and your base one. Again, 10,000 is just
like you're gonna have to contact CSS, and we'll want to know if somebody wants to use 20,000 cores. Like don't give the engineers a heart attack that are watching.
More compute is good for it's a good problem to solve. But I
understand, but like I don't need them worried that there's Sub 2s coming based on this video. Like, that's the feedback I'm not looking for.
So another thing here to note here too is the max threshold that you're talking about here. That's an Azure portal setting. So that's on your subscription. That's inside the Azure portal. I think you were pointing that out earlier in one of the screenshots here. So the idea of this is like it's
slide on that. Yes. So
it's configurable.
That, this one. You can. Yeah. You're spot on. So this quota acquisition is just like any other PaaS resource. So recently, Fabric announced the integration with quotas. With Autoscale billing, we also support the quota integration. So say, for example, this wild example that I was talking about, say they want to add 10,000 capacity units. That's not going to be enabled by default. So in this case, even if they're an enterprise customer, they would have to go to the portal, create a CSS request or like a request for more cores, and that gets approved. And once that's approved, the max limits can be set on their capacity settings to the new approved limit. So in that case, they will be able to like run the jobs at scale. So
one thing I noticed about this screenshot here, and I'm going to point this out because I've done this capacity expansion before. You're doing this on. So how does this correlate to the region of the Fabric SKU and the region of the quota here? So the quota you're pointing at here, the quotas are coming from, like in this example that you have here on the screenshot. There's like central US, there's central, west central US, right? How do me as the user, do I have to make sure I know where the Fabric capacity is and make sure I add the quota to the capacity region where my Fabric capacity is? Does that make question make sense what I'm saying? Do I have to align that, or do you guys figure it out for me?
No, the capacity is always region specific. So every time you go and perform you create a capacity resource in Azure, it does ask you for the region where you want to like provision it. So the regional and the Azure quotas are also regional, right? So you're not going to have the same demand in like two different regions. So in this case, once you get the quota approved for a specific subscription, that's going to be across all the capacities in that specific region. And then, because again, this is at the subscription level, correct? And then it gives you all the flexibility to load balance them across like different capacities. So you could come, say you got 10,000 CUs now approved. You could come to your capacity settings. For your dev workload, you could allocate like say 3,000, and for your test or like production, you could use the rest. You have all the flexibility on your layer.
Are you going to help? So again, this is me double clicking on, to use your terms from Microsoft. Let's double click on that just really quickly here. When I create a capacity for Fabric, I create it in the Azure portal. And when I'm going to this screenshot that you show here, so if I'm clicking on the Fabric quotas, are you auto detecting for me, hey, you have 3 capacities and they are in these regions? And so I'm not going to accidentally request for higher quotas in a region that I'm not actually attached to Fabric to.
That's great. Yes.
Okay, good. Just clarifying for admins who are going to be doing this, like Microsoft's going to give us some help here to make sure that where you deploy the capacity, because it is region specific, and where you ask for the quota do need to be aligned. And the screen here, or the screenshot you're seeing, is going to help you get to the right region or the right capacity that you need. Cool. Excellent.
And something to keep in mind with these Fabric quotas is you can't, like, let's say, for example, your quota is 500 CUs.
Yes. Yep.
Because you need a minimum of an F2, you're never going to be able to dedicate all 500 of those CUs to the Spark Autoscale. It doesn't allow you to go beyond the combination of your capacities plus what you've set for the Autoscale billing. So
good point. I didn't think of that.
Yeah, no. So if you have an F256, like pretend you have 512, right? So if you have an F256, you can't set 512 Spark Autoscale.
Correct. It just won't happen.
256, right?
Yeah.
So it's a combination of those two things that you have to keep out, and we help you with that in the UX. We don't let you set it in a way that would violate the quota. Yes.
Yeah, because I would screw it up and I would set the wrong thing if you didn't guide me. Awesome. Great.
So now that you've set the limits, right? This was also another feedback that we heard from our private preview customers. How do they monitor and track usage? So you cannot use the regular capacity metrics app because there the usage is going to be smooth from the base capacity, right? So we have a new page in the capacity metrics app. It should also be available in all regions. And the feature is also available in all regions. So once you navigate to this Autoscale compute for Spark tab, this is going to be filtering out and showing only the Spark usage that emitted after you've turned on the Autoscale billing or the serverless billing option. So you would see all of the operation level details. You would see the workspace, the users who have actually triggered this. And in the detail view or the drill down, you can also go and see the point in time usage. And in the chart, like if you do the drill through, you can also see the absolute max limit that is there. So at a given point in time. So you, if say, for example, you're constantly hitting your overall limit, then that shows a sign of throttling or queuing, where your Spark jobs are probably getting rejected if they're interactive, or if they're getting queued if they're like batch jobs, right? So it should give you a good idea on like if you need to go and adjust your limits or acquire more quota to max out on your CUs that you're provisioned.
Yeah, let's talk a little bit about, sorry, I just want to follow up on the queuing.
Go ahead.
On the queuing piece. So this is a really big deal because this is something, we do have this concept of queuing. It exists even in the capacity model. So if you've scheduled jobs, and they will queue up. However, with the capacity model, you could hit your overall capacity limit before. So if you hit your capacity limit, other workloads are running or something, they'll get rejected before they get in the queue. Here, because we're not looking at the capacity piece, it doesn't pass through that layer. It will get queued up and it'll work just like it does in Synapse today.
Okay,
so that is
I like that.
Yeah,
that's a neat advantage here. I really like that. That's a nuanced feature. And again, as you guys are speaking about this, even at my F2 level, I'm thinking, shoot, I just want to turn this on because I just purely for the sake of argument of I actually want to see what it really is doing, like what capacity I'm actually using at any given point in time. You said no smoothing on this. I just want to see potentially even for runs of stuff, how much compute unit does it actually take to do a job? No smoothing required. this is super useful for me, and I can turn it on for a bit, try it out, see what the job is actually doing, and then I can go back over to my capacity pieces if I find that it's more efficient for me to run it there because I'm already prepaying for that compute level. But this is really useful for that. Very good point. I love that. Awesome.
Perfect. So I think we covered all the scenarios. I think this may be a good time to like roll the video.
Yeah, let's do a video. So this is the live demo video that came from the Fabric conference session that you guys did already. So we're just going to run the video here, and we'll pause it a couple places. If there's any questions, please put them in the chat window. If you have any thoughts about what we're seeing here, please like and subscribe and throw comments down in the description below, because Chris will be copiously looking through all the comments and making sure he has all the snide remarks for all the things we need here. So, definitely give Chris some work to do over the weekend, because he doesn't do enough as it is.
I generally don't attack the commenters. It's simply the stuffed shirt hosts who get my ire.
Well, Copilot did tell me to say
AI,
that. So.
With the AI generated Twitter picture, which again,
it's
not going to let you get away with.
I love it.
I don't know who that person is on your Twitter feed, but it's not you.
The more handsome version of myself. All right. With that, we're going to go jump into the video.
See how to enable Autoscale billing for Spark, monitor consumption, and increase quotas. First, navigate to the capacity settings page. Here, under Autoscale billing for Apache Spark, toggle the switch to enable pay-as-you-go billing. Set the max capacity units, which determines the max consumption across all attached works.
So let me just pause right here on this one. Is this an admin-only feature? So this is a capacity setting.
Yeah.
Is that a capacity admin can touch this setting, correct?
That is correct, yes.
Okay. Is this, so since it's at the capacity level, are you able, is this a feature, I know there's this idea of like delegating certain admin controls out to other users. Does this feature become delegated to the workspace level? No, okay. So just only lives at the admin capacity level.
Not yet anyway. Would you like to see it at the workspace level?
No, I'm just trying to understand the feature boundaries.
I'm serious. It's a legit.
Well,
yes.
Maybe. I mean, I would, again, I'm as an admin of a capacity, right? I have the authority to kind of control those pieces, but I could very much see like my capacity may span multiple workspaces, finance, HR, some, sales team. And maybe I want to delegate to that team to allow them to eat up some of the cores higher or lower. And maybe that's a delegatable offense. I don't know. I mean, again, this is all, to me, I look at this as going kind of a cost control mechanism, right? You can use up to this max amount. So maybe there's an admin at that workspace level that would maybe use that. That's how I'm perceiving it anyways. Just kind of curious there.
Once the limit
let's go back in the video.
Jobs are either queued or rejected. Next, to monitor usage, go to the Capacity Metrics app. Under the Autoscale for Spark Compute tab, you'll see consumption across all operations. This usage is directly tied to your bill, as there is no smoothing involved. You can also select a specific operation and explore the usage in the detail view. To increase your quota, navigate to the Azure portal and select Usage and Quotas. Filter for Microsoft Fabric, then submit a request to increase the quota. For example, I'm requesting 10,000 capacity units for a new data engineering workload I plan to onboard. Once approved, you can increase unto these new limits in your Autoscale settings. Hope this gives you a flexible way to optimize compute usage and stay in control of your spend as your data engineering workloads grow.
Awesome. I love this demo. It's super good, very helpful. The naming's all wrong. We're going to, rename it to something better. But other than that, I love this feature. This is awesome. And this is what we've been wanting for. Like this I think adds a huge competitive layer to what Fabric is producing in the marketplace. So I really like the feature here. I know, gentlemen, you've been working very hard on this. Any final thoughts as we kind of wrap here? No questions came in. We're doing okay there. But any other final thoughts before we wrap? Good. I'll take that as no.
Well, I was waiting. I was generously waiting for Santosh since he's been doing the majority.
Sorry, I said I was going to direct questions to individual people here. So, Santosh, any final thoughts you want to kind of carve out?
I think this has been it's primarily because of all the community feedback, right? So we've been hearing a lot of feedback from users, like from large, medium, small enterprise users. MVP community has been super vocal about this. So thanks and we are still looking forward to getting more feedback other than the name part. We heard it loud and clear. But like what Chris mentioned earlier, like the workspace level guardrails or
love it.
Other ways in which they could any user could optimize their overall compute utilization or cost management scenarios, right?
Wonderful. Any other slides, Santosh, you need to share? Or are we kind of
We do have, so I do have some slides on the overall cost management.
Yeah.
We could go over those, and if there are more questions, happy to answer them as well.
I'm good for time if you guys are. So if you want to keep going, I'm more than happy to keep going a couple more cost optimization techniques as well. So yeah, keep going.
All right.
I'll also point out that you didn't even come back to me about my final thoughts.
Oh yeah. Well,
so by all means, continue.
Chris,
I'll provide them at the actual final of this, as opposed to the fake final. This is like a Santosh one-on-one, where I was like, hey, do you have any more questions? No. I say, okay. He's like, oh, wait, one more thing. And he does that 3 times after I've asked him if he has anything else. Like, so I do the same. This, but okay.
You have 2 people here who can barely keep their mind on the same thing for very long. We're getting so distracted. Squirrels are all over the place.
Fine. I just, I'd like to point out that, like, first Justina, like, no encouragement there, and then like, oh, I'm going to ask each people individually. Again, skipped over. So,
okay.
This is not doing a lot for my ego. Friday.
We'll have to do a new. Chris,
I think you got him in the AI generated image.
Yeah.
Par for the course. Yeah.
Okay. Back to you, Santosh.
So we talked about the cost management control, and you did bring up this earlier in the call, where they're like delegated settings, right? So thinking from an admin perspective, like in Fabric today, we have like 4 levels of controls. You have capacity level controls, you have workspace levels, pool settings. So capacity admins could delegate some of these settings and allow workloads to be completely controlled by the workspace admins who are closer to these jobs and notebooks. And then you also have environments. Environments are more personalized, and these are going to be managed by members. They don't have to be admins. They cannot override the admin guardrails, but they could customize it even more further based on the workload specific requirement. And then you also have like session level controls, which are and all of these get inherited at different levels. And the session level customization is the one that finally overrides within the bounds set by the workspace admin or the capacity admin. So capacity pools, one new addition to this that we recently enabled is users will be able to delegate to the workspace admins, and users would also be able to, capacity admins would be able to like disable startup pools if they want. For the workspaces. So forcing the workspaces tied to the capacity to only use the capacity pools that the capacity admins have created. So it gives complete controls on the max number of cores each job could scale up to, right? More from a spend control perspective. And also like managing the concurrency across different jobs, or if they're trying to like create pools for different set of workspaces. The next one is workspace level control. So
actually, no, it's just fine. So I don't like, we didn't design it specifically to do this, but there is technically a way to basically disable Spark work. Because you can go and basically disable starter pools at the capacity level and then create no custom pools for somebody to use. And you've effectively disabled Spark for that workspace. Now, please don't do that. Rely on your usage and patronage to continue to fund our fine work here, but like there is a way technically to go and effectively disable Spark.
Someone may want to only use Dataflows Gen 2. I'm not sure who that would be, but there is the ability for someone to do this and say, look, you're only going to use that thing moving forward. I would highly recommend you do not want to turn off the Spark experience because, one, it's amazing, it works really well, and it's super fast and highly efficient. So I would agree with you, Chris, 100%. You probably want to leave it on, but you may have a use case where you want to use things of Fabric and you don't want them using the Spark experience. That there are probably use cases around that.
Yeah, I think, like, by the way, that is high praise from Mike to say it's amazing, because my very first meeting with Mike, because we've known each other for a while, when I joined the Spark team, he said, this stinks. And I was like, okay. He's like, oh, this is crap. Like, you guys have so far to go. And I was like, all right, well, it's like talking to you. But
the gap was pretty large to begin with, but we're getting like, so now, I mean, the features we're hitting here, and again, I've been complaining to Chris about this one for a while. Like it makes more sense to be the billing part of this and the scaling, the optimization parts. We're finally getting controlled. I think really this is like death by 1,000 paper cuts from my perspective. And now it's getting cleaner, it's smoother, and I'm getting the controls that I really want to have as either an admin or a workspace owner. This is really making the experience very smooth. And I think what you're going to start seeing with customers, my opinion here, they're going to start with like the semantic layer and the Power BI layer inside Fabric and touching things in the gold layer. What we're seeing here now is this is allowing Spark to then dive deeper into your medallion architecture. It's not just land some gold tables into Fabric with a lakehouse now. Now this makes it fully capable to go all the way back through and say, we're going to land just raw data in bronze. And now you guys are encapsulating the entire story, bronze all the way through your reports. And this is just making it better for me, the developer, to use this stuff. So kudos on you guys. You've been listening and you're making the right features. I'm just very happy about this.
That's
not
amazing.
like my opinion really matters or anything like that, but
No, I mean, no, absolutely.
What it's worth.
Well, I mean, at the time, you're like, hey, look, Justina's just not listening to me. And I was like, don't worry, I got this. I'll take care of her. And
good thing she's on the call here. She'll be gracious, hopefully, with us.
I mean, she's already made clear that she's not.
Yeah. Awesome.
So.
And again, keep your feedback coming.
Yeah, for sure.
And also like all the community members, right?
Please do. Let us know in the comments.
It's also in the comments. So actively looking for more feedback so we could make this much more better in terms of overall price performance. The next one is going one level down further, right? So members are the ones who are actually super close to the workload. So you have options to customize your compute. You could allocate your executor core, executor memory, driver core, driver memory. Again, this is all from the pools that are being created by a capacity admin or from the workspace admins. And then the final configuration is at the runtime level. So this is using the magic command where users could specify library dependencies or customize their compute again, turn off autoscale, turn on autoscale, or set the max executors or allocation of cores and memory at the runtime level. So this. Sorry.
Wait a minute. Wait. Does all that code get written when you do the magic command of configure?
Yeah. Or it does. Yeah.
So now you're, this is great. This is what I was asking for like a month ago. I was like, man, we can configure things, but I don't know what to configure.
Okay. It automatically generates it for you. So you don't have to, of course, come on. There are 200 plus Spark properties. Are like the JSON structure is not that friendly. So.
Oh my gosh. Okay, that's super helpful. And because we've done some other sessions around like optimizing Spark and like where to do certain things. That is super helpful to have that magic command auto generate all the properties and just a little JSON object that's great. Oh, nice job on that one. Kudos. That's really good.
The notebook team that did this, but I think
nice.
Santosh, you take the credit and then you let them know later.
Exactly. Yeah, they're not on this podcast right now. They don't know what's going on. So it's
the Spark team. We did it.
Love it.
But
nice work.
It just creates this the overall code stub, which gives you a template.
Sweet.
And you could add and customize it how you want.
Sure. Smart.
So
love it.
That covers the Spark configurations. Now, again, we talked about autoscale billing, like the serverless billing. But we keep hearing like from customers, like enterprise customers, or even like the community. How do I handle an overload capacity? This could happen even in an autoscale enabled scenario, or in a workload which is completely running on Fabric capacity. So a couple of in Spark, as Chris mentioned, we have been doing a lot of work in handling this. We enable queuing. We are also like looking for more feedback. I'm trying to like get more feedback around this in ways to like for customers to like effectively manage the queue. And Chris also mentioned about like the overall, if the overall capacity is throttled, then you're not going to be able to like even open an item. You'll not be able to, it'll not even hit the Spark level queue because your overall work Fabric capacity is now throttled. It would need to like, you would need to give it time for it to like smooth out the usage or like bump it up to a next queue to like get yourself unblocked.
So just to build on that point just briefly. So that's only if you have Spark also running on the capacity.
Yes.
But something to keep in mind. If for some reason your capacity is overloaded and you have Spark Autoscale billing turned on, it does not affect your Spark jobs. So they'll continue to run and operate, and if they're queued up, they'll still move along even if your capacity itself is throttled.
Okay, gotcha. And let me just, while you're saying Spark capacity very specifically here, I just want to be very clear.
I didn't say the word Spark capacity. I said capacity.
Spark.
You added words together in a way.
I'm adding words together there. So in my mental model here, there's Spark computing, and then there's Python notebook computing, and then there's the T-SQL. So I'm thinking about, when I look at the tool, I look at the notebook experience, and I see there's multiple compute engines that are kind of behind the scenes. So let me just be clear about clarity on this one. This means Spark notebooks specifically. This is not talking about the Python notebooks or the T-SQL. Okay.
No, Python. So as far as billing is concerned, Python's still Spark.
Yeah.
So it goes to the Spark meter. So if you use Spark Autoscale billing, Python notebooks will go through there as well.
Okay.
Anything that goes through the Spark meter.
And there's no concept of auto scaling a Python notebook because it has one. It's one dedicated machine. It's one node. So it's like a one node notebook. Now the T-SQL notebook, is that going through here, or is that going through something else? So that's the other notebook experience I'm aware of as notebooks are related. I think that's the SQL warehouse. Maybe?
That goes into DW. So
okay, good. Okay,
that's not covered as part of Spark meter. So
okay, I'm just making sure I add the. So I'm just trying to align the experience of Power BI or Fabric.com to what I know, and I know there's 3 things in there. So 2 of them account, and then the third one, T-SQL, does not. Okay, just for clarity, I'm good now.
No, Santosh totally missed that in the blog. It was bad. No, we got this question. Actually, to be fair, we got this question last week. Like Python notebooks are covered because they're just considered Spark in terms of the way the building works.
Yeah, because I may even turn on Autoscale and just. I mean, I may have like a number of users who all want to write little Spark notebooks or discovery on data. Like this is also an opportunity to like not just a data engineering workload. It could be just a team that knows how to use Spark notebooks, and we give them a bunch of Python or Spark notebooks, and they just do data discovery. They do engineering work, like just figuring things out. So that could also be part of the experience here as well. Okay, great. Just wanted to clarify that. Thank you.
No, that's a great question.
So one thing to highlight in this is, say you're running on Spark, you hit your Spark level limits, then the best place for you to like start understanding your concurrency or like throttling scenarios is the monitoring hub. So you could start seeing the jobs running into a throttle state, where if there are interactive notebook jobs or lakehouse table maintenance, loading the table in a lakehouse, or batch jobs like Spark job definitions, they're going to start queuing. So those would actually start showing up as not started in the monitoring hub. So say, for example, you have different compute capacities, and they are all competing against. Some of the features that we have rolled out in the last year, which allows you to like balance your concurrency and also your overall cost, and also give you performance boost. One that comes to my mind is the high concurrency mode. This has been and again an ask from all the community and all the enterprise users from Synapse, which allows sharing of Spark compute within like different notebooks. This is generally available. It also allows users to get a faster session start experience in cases where they have custom libraries, a lot of custom libraries, jars, wheels that they're installing, which takes away the 5-second instant run experience. What they could basically do is, say a session is already warmed up, attaching to that session gives them the subsequent notebooks that are being attached, they just start within like 2 to 3 seconds. So you still get the instant run experience. The other one that we went GA in FabCon is high concurrency mode for notebooks and pipelines. This has been, we see a lot of usage or positive feedback from the community on this. We have also shipped a lot more monitoring improvements. So in the monitoring hub, if you go for high concurrency sessions, You can filter out. You have log level separation, so you can actually see the different notebooks that are emitting logs in the shared session. You can also like have a filtered out view in the monitoring page, the monitoring detail view, where you could filter it out, filter the job stages by different notebooks that are running in a shared environment. You also have the session tag, which allows you to define the sharing boundary for a given session. So it could be any string. Once you specify that, the system automatically understands and defines a shared context around this. Any notebook that matches this criteria gets packed into the active session. If not, it gets its own dedicated session. I see a comment on the monitoring on HC notebook runs. The snapshots support for active running notebooks and high concurrency notebooks is
I love that
recently.
feature. Been using that recently because I write bad code, and so I've been using that to fix things. So thank you for that one. That's good.
Yes, I know that was a pain. That was a big blocker. So
Yeah.
that is enabled, and also the log separation is now enabled for all the different modes for high concurrency.
Can I just add one more note here that
Yeah.
of something that I've discovered inside the high concurrency piece? So one area in the high concurrency, so when we talk high concurrency, we're talking about in the context of a pipeline. So there's a single service principal, single entity that's kind of accessing that high concurrency item. The same is also true for users. So, Mike has a high concurrency session. That means I can access it, and I can put in 5, 6, 7 notebooks on that same high concurrency session, and I'm not adding more cores. Santosh, though, you can't add your notebooks to my session.
That's correct.
So I just want to be clear about some of this, because this is also a different behavior that you'll see in other programs, Databricks, where the user-based context is not necessarily adhered to by notebook pieces as well. Just a difference, call it out. I will say it's a little bit of a friction point for me right now, but it's not that bad, honestly. And the fact that if you're on a big enough capacity and potentially using Autoscale things, the collaboration between two users in the same notebook is a little bit of a friction point for me sometimes, because I really do love working with someone else in notebooks together, and we're both writing cells and executing off the same cluster. But that experience I really like. Maybe we'll get to in the future. I'm not trying to commit you to anything for new feature development, but I just want to call out for users that whenever we're talking high concurrency, it's under the context of the pipeline or the user. So just want to be clear about that.
Yes, you're right. Again, this keeps coming up. This is a favorite topic for me and Chris. Like,
sorry,
no, it's fine. Santos
I don't apologize for this.
Like 2 years. Santos has been like adamantly like, no, we can't do this, Chris.
Shots fired. Shots fired.
No, it is not. It is not Santos. So, like, there is a internal debate in the engineering team. Let's just say that, and there's some specific things around security that we need to work through to go and do that.
Yeah, totally agree.
That is something like. But I do want, on that point, like, one of the reasons that particular topic comes up is from cost management, because again, like, why do each of these people have to have their own cluster?
Exactly right.
I do want to like, I'm not trying to suck up just Justina here, because I'll even take a shot at myself. Like, if it was up to me, you wouldn't have starter pools on an F2. I will say that Justina overruled me on that one, because I'm like, you cheapskates, you want us to give you the free compute, go use an F4. But in all seriousness, like, oftentimes it's like, hey, Microsoft's greedy, or they're going to things like, think about the number of things the Spark team has done to go and reduce costs for customers and make their runs more efficient. You're getting the native execution engine included for free. We've done a lot of like high concurrency. Yes. Like, when I first joined the team, the lack of high concurrency in Synapse was a huge pain point. Like, I was going to buy Justina a T-shirt that said high concurrency on it, because she was driving me nuts with this in terms of getting this implemented. And I love it. You have high concurrency now in pipelines, in notebooks, and high concurrency for Lakehouse, something we even mentioned is coming. So behind the scenes, the Lakehouses will run even more efficiently when they're running Spark clusters. And now with the Spark Autoscale billing, like, there's been a consistent effort to go and make things more efficient for users. So when you're doing comparisons against other products for price performance, we are very confident that the numbers that we shared at FedCon and whatnot, you will see, and you will be able to get that type of price performance that is very, very attractive.
I love it.
So
it's going, and again, you guys know this already. Me as an outsider looking at this one, we're going to get into a price war. It will become who can do the same amount of work for the most efficient way. That's what we're going to get to. So I just very thankful for that comment, Chris, because that's spot on. And thank you guys as a team that continues pushing hard for like really good optimization on things, because that gives me confidence as I'm developing solutions. I know I can keep building on your platform, knowing that you're aggressively attacking optimization spaces, and that's good for me. So anyone else who's listening, that's a key point here, that the team is actively working to make it a better cost-effective space. Get done what you need to get done as efficiently as possible. I love that. Thank you. Appreciate it. Sorry, back to you, Santosh.
No. To add to that, right? Again, you touched upon like the content that I have in the slide. It's spot on. Like users would be able to like leverage additional gains that they get from native execution engine. Like, and what we do in this case is I know it's currently you could enable it through an environment. You could set it. You could make that environment as a default for the workspace. We have heard good amount of feedback about the discoverability part. We're working on that to make it much more easily available for users to like turn it on. And to be honest, like we have been based on the tests that we are seeing and based on the feedback that we're hearing from customers and tweaking the engine, we can see that there's no point in like we have some unsupported scenarios. Say for example, scenarios like scans over JSON or JSON files or XML files.
I do that all. Dude, everything I build is like in JSON these days. It's like there's so much JSON anymore.
Yeah, so in those cases as well, like what happens is if native execution is turned on, in those unsupported scenarios, it does a graceful fallback on the JVM, on the Spark layer. So it automatically executes on Spark and pushes it, does a predicate push down on all the other supported operators into the native layer. So what this gives you is you don't pay any additional cost. And you also get the performance boost from the vectorized execution layer rather than JVM. So, and we have also like shipped a lot more additions to this. So optimizations on delta snapshot creation, elimination of columnar to row transformations, which also like adds additional perf overheads when doing scans. And we also have delta snapshot, delta statistics, automated table statistics that is giving additional like 45% gains. So the price performance is something like super key, and we're focusing on that on all possible angles to make sure that we achieve the best. And I would highly recommend all users like turning on native execution engine and sharing more feedback around like scenarios that are not working for them, or that where they see any degradation in the perf. Ideally they should not, because it immediately falls back and runs in the regular layer, and they don't pay any additional cost on this. So that's
why wouldn't you? All the benefit with none of the drawbacks. That's a setting inside the experience of the environment. Is that something, Santosh, we can also configure that in the notebook? Does that come in with the configuration for the magic command? So the magic command for configure, you can set it there too?
Yes, you're right. If you just enable at the statement level, that gives you more control. So say, for example, like the scenario that you mentioned, where you have a JSON parsing, where you feel that, okay, I don't want this fallback thing happening. What you would do is you could just turn native off before that particular cell and let it run as part of Spark, and only turn native on for operations like where you're doing some filters, or we also now are enabling merge support. So before those statements, you could turn it on and get the additional gains that you could get out of the vectorized engine.
Sweet. I love that. And this is something I don't see anywhere else. Like I don't see the ability to like cell by cell flip on features that I may need for really optimizing things. It's cool. I love it. Really good feature there. So very pleased about this one as well.
And we also like enabled all of these monitoring capabilities. The GIF is just showing you, like, you can actually see the breakdown where the fallback is happening. So you also have, it gives you better debuggability, right? Say, for example, one of your task stages are taking longer. Now you know at what part or which layer is this being executed. It also like gives you more feedback on understanding if you need to optimize your code better, or if there's some issue, you could also like let us know so that we can make sure that you get it's handled, and the engine is able to give the best performance in all possible scenarios.
I'm gonna admit my weakness here. Let's be honest. Do I really optimize my code? Yeah, maybe a little bit, but really, I just throw Copilot at problems and say, if this doesn't work right, hey Copilot, can you help me figure out why this is not working right? Give me a different pattern that I could use, and then I do more testing. So, I mean, me, I'm being lazy. I throw problems at Copilot and say, give me a different solution, and maybe optimize this a bit more. So, how well that works, I don't know yet. That's what I do.
You could do that, yes, and I think in most of the cases it does come up with accurate code. It just requires a little bit of tweaks in some points, but yes, I do that too. So I think those are the slides that I had. I just want to go. I know we touched upon a lot of topics. Just want to give a summary. We talked about the serverless billing option. Autoscale billing for Spark is the feature name. We changed this based on the feedback that we have been hearing. Then we also saw the different admin and governance controls, the different hierarchies that admins at different level members could use in every enterprise scenario, so that they have guardrails and controls in place just to make sure that they don't run into any noisy neighbor problems. And we also saw how throttling and queuing would work. We talked a lot about how throttling on different layers, the overall capacity being throttled, and we also saw what will be the scenarios when jobs within Spark get throttled. And we talked about high concurrency mode. You brought about Python and Python compute and Spark, how that would work, and high concurrency for all options and native execution engine.
Awesome.
I just see Sandeep's comment on that, saying that, are we going to change the name? Yes, I think so.
No, sure. It's ultimately not our decision, but
no, it's marketing.
We hear the feedback from you,
yeah,
and we're certainly.
Hopefully marketing comes up with something better or even more creative or something else that's really why can't we make up all those medical names? There's Actrivia or whatever. There's just random names of things, not even real words. They just kind of make up I don't know. They just make up dumb words that just mean something. So let's make up a brand new word that no one knows about, and we'll call it that. Spark Actrivia, and then Autoscale billing or whatever you want to call it. Yeah. Anyways, I'm just giving you a hard time here. Final thoughts, Chris Finland. We've done through the whole thing.
No, it's too late now, Mike.
Come on.
I had a point. No, I look. We have tried. So I will real quick. Yeah. I keep getting screwed up because I have the public feed here.
Oh yes.
So I'll sometimes look, and you're mouthing something. I'm like, why is he making fun of Santosh? Because Santosh is talking, and I'm like, does he realize it on camera? I'm like, oh wait, I'm looking at the public feed.
Wrong screen.
I'm looking at the public feed. I'm like, that's really mean. And then I was like, I'm just dumb. I was like, okay.
I love it.
So no, I look, I think this is something we, Mike, you and I first started talking about this billing methodology quite some time ago. And the fact that we've now landed this and we've been able to get this across the line, super proud of the work Santosh has done here to help make this happen. I think the Spark team, under Justina's fine leadership, has really, we've made a number of decisions which I think could have been or potentially controversial at the time, but have paid off in terms of hey, look, we're going to give people the ability to go control that compute. We're going to go and lean into the high concurrency story. We're going to go and push to have native execution engine available as part of the core product with no additional cost. And again, it would have been very easy to just say, hey, you know what, we'll just we won't go and push for get the best possible price performance and things like that. But I think the team has made a conscious effort here, and I'm really, really proud of the work that everyone on the team has done. And so really excited to do chats like this. I'm sure you'll invite me again in 3 to 5 years, because
of course
you've never invited me before.
Well, once you fix some more things around paginated report embedding and things like
that. As I explained, I'm
just
not
saying.
on that team any longer.
Well, you never know.
Your feedback. Like you
Things
could
can
ask
change.
Justina. You could ask Justina to go work on some of the stuff with goals or
Sorry,
or,
inside joke here.
Auto ML for Power BI.
Inside joke here. Chris Finland is the individual that you can thank for even getting paginated reports into the service at all. And then also with that, you can also thank him for the incredible pricing you get for premium per user, because those two features were a part of his workload at Microsoft. So Chris, thank you very much for those features. You've made a big impact on our community, and Santosh, you're making a great impact here on the Spark side as well. So I will say this. The Spark team is listening. They're doing the right things. There's been a lot of hard decisions, but I think you're really making the right direction to get to features that the community really needs. And I can tell when I listen to the community, and they're thrilled about what's coming. This is amazing. So thank you, PM team, for listening. Thank you for building these wonderful features. We really do appreciate your time here today, and it was fun, and a little bit of jest here as well. But again, thank you very much for just building such a great product. With that, we'll say thank you all very much. We hope you enjoyed this semi-medium long quick tip. It's a little bit longer than normal, but a lot of great content and information here that you will want to use. Please go give us your comments as well. Please let us know what other features or things you want here in the comments of this video. We'd love to hear what you think you need to help make your Spark experience even better and more polished. Santosh, Chris, thank you very much.
Thank you.
We love working with you guys. We'll see you in about 3 to 5 years.
Yep.
Thanks for having us, Mike.
Cheers.